Um, and again, just thanks everybody for being here today. My name is Alex Valenzuela. I'm also a senior cloud solution architect here in the GPS US organization. I work directly with Scott and Indranil and everybody else that's here. But today, we're going to shift gears a little bit and start talking about live events and webinars here in Microsoft 365. Okay, so I'm sure some of you are already familiar with this, so we're not going to go too deep into everything, but we do want to talk about really what the purpose is and what the differences are between live events, webinars, and meetings. So obviously meetings, we use them every day pretty much. They're great for connecting people to collaborate. Really, that's the key there. Everybody's able to chat, use video, talk, share, content, do everything that you want to. Hey, Andranil, you want to mute?
Sorry.
No worries. Thank you. Um, the hazards of the job, right? Remote work. So again, I was saying meetings is the key word. There's collaboration, right? So you're used to your meetings. You work with everybody. Everybody can share. Everybody can contribute, and everybody's familiar with that type of workload. When we get into webinars and live events, there's obviously a little bit of a difference, right? With events, we're talking about connecting audiences at a scale, as it says here. So we're talking I think that 20,000 might be outdated. It's 10,000. There was a limit increase due to COVID last year, but regardless, the scale of the event is much larger than your typical meeting, right? It's a broadcast, so it's not a collaborative experience for the attendees, right? You're going to have your presenters and your producers, and those are designated ahead of time. Plus, you can, instead of chat, you can moderate your questions and answers and have a dialogue that way, right? But it allows for a broadcast for one-to-many, essentially, within the Teams ecosystem. So I really like this slide because people are always asking, well, when do we want to use live events? When do we just want to do a meeting? And when would a webinar make sense, right? And I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to go from right to left. So like I said, with a meeting, everybody's familiar with that. It's great for things like group training or just collaboration in general, right? You can have, up to 1,000 attendees. It used to be 250, I believe. You don't have to have a registration. You can have your polls, chat, reactions, and then you can allow external people to join those meetings as well, right? But with the webinars, for example, you can have your registration pages. There's going to be some additional features that are built into that. Because of that registration, you can have some reporting that's built in of who attends that you can then use for marketing purposes, right? You can set default video and audio off as well. And then you can set that, public or private. You can scale webinars up, but you lose some of that collaboration. You can scale them up to 10,000 attendees, which is almost just like using a live event, right? But you'll get reporting up to just 1,000. So that's just something to keep in mind when using webinars. The live events are the large ones, right? So you can produce these using Teams, or you can actually have a third-party production, software, devices, everything else that can help you produce those, and then just consume them via Teams for your users. It's a similar experience for everybody, right? And you can have a nice delay there, so you can manage what's presented and manage what's live for the users and kind of adjust that way, right? So the nice thing about the live events is that you can leverage Yammer, Teams, or Stream to view those, and it'll depend on which production mode that you choose to use either one of those three supported applications, essentially. One scenario that we talk about when we would use for live events is an all hands, right? So this would be an internal meeting, right? You have a bunch of employees and CEO wants to, just have a all hands meeting every month or every quarter, or whatever the case may be. You can set that live event to be accessed only for employees, right? And they can be anywhere, so they can be anywhere and consume this. It could be recorded, so they can see it after the fact as well if they're middle of the night when this is happening. But this one scenario where you can use live events. The other one that we kind of outlined here is just one for public consumption, right? So the previous one was internal. This one would be for marketing purposes, for example, right? So they want to announce a new product. The marketing lead wants to talk about this product. They have a live event, and it's set for access to the public. So anybody can access that particular live event webcast. And again, they can be anywhere in the world, and they can leverage this as a great marketing tool to get their products noticed. So planning and deployment, I'm going to talk about a little bit some of the things that are required, right? The organizers of these events obviously need to be licensed, and there's a bunch of different combinations of licenses, as you guys are all aware. So we're not going to go into too much detail on what's required or not, but these are some of the options, right? You definitely need a Teams license. You might need a Stream license in some instances as well. And obviously, you need permissions to schedule the live events, and you need permissions to schedule meetings as well. So just keep that in mind. For the producers and the presenters, if you're going to produce the event in Teams, you need a Teams license, like you said. And as I mentioned, there's a way to produce these events externally with third-party solutions. If that is the case, then you're going to need a Stream license for that particular producer and presenter so they can actually leverage the third-party production solution, okay? The attendees don't need license because they're just consuming content, right? So they're just getting a broadcast sent to them. And the tenant admin or the Teams admin don't really come into play here because we're talking about the organizers, producers, and presenters in this particular requirement. The policies. So Scott didn't go into this. Thankfully, we can kind of review that a little bit here. There's not too much to them. They're pretty straightforward, right? So there's 4 settings in here for your policy. Are you going to allow scheduling? Basically, are you giving the person the capability to host live events, right? That's essentially what it comes down to. Transcription for attendees. Are you going to allow transcription, so your captions, right? Yes or no? Most of the time you want that, especially if you have a global company, right? Where maybe there's multiple languages spoken. Even though they might be comfortable speaking English, you can actually put the transcription in their particular language and they can consume the content that way. Who can join the scheduled live event? So this is where those scenarios come in, right? So you can set it to everybody in the organization. You can set it to anyone, or you can specify based on users or groups, right? So you can limit the participation even internally to who can consume that particular live event. And then who can record, right? Or who can record? So you can set it to record by default. You can set it to allow the organizers to record, or you can set it to not record at all, right? And obviously that's going to vary depending on what that purpose of the event is. But you have that capability to set that policy. And if you noticed, we have a PowerShell command down in the bottom that you can also leverage if you're more comfortable doing it that way. For the settings, right? So it's even less. For the settings, you can configure a URL for support if you have a specific team that's going to handle support requests, right? And we're talking about, potentially thousands of people joining these. So there's, definitely going to be a handful here or there that are having issues. It's good to be prepared, and you can configure that URL so that they can actually get some help during the event if they're having issues with audio or joining. The bottom section there is for distribution purposes. So with live events, you have the capability to leverage just the Microsoft environment, right, Azure, or you can actually leverage a third-party solution to distribute the content to the attendees. And we'll talk about that a little bit in a second. But those are the settings there. You basically choose your provider, and then now there's actually a difference there. So there's a separate URL at the bottom for the APIs for that particular provider that you can set in there as well if you need to. Couple of things to be aware. I think I kind of touched this on the requirements, but presenters need meeting policies that allow screen sharing, right? Obviously, the whole purpose of this is to share content. So make sure that their meeting policies allow screen sharing. That's very important. And also, most people probably don't touch this, but if you are messing with bandwidth, make sure that the presenters and the organizers don't have any limits on that sharing, on the bandwidth settings for the meetings, right? Because that can affect the production. It can affect the broadcast for all of your attendees, and that's definitely not something you want to have to deal with during a live event. So like I said, we can produce live events in Teams. right? So that's the default method, the easy method. If you're not doing anything super intricate, this will work perfectly fine. I've done it. Super easy. This is just the flow, right? So you can schedule everything in Teams. You can produce in Teams. You can go live directly from the Teams client. And then the delivery can be Azure and the Content Delivery Network, or like I said, you can have a third-party content delivery, solution that you can leverage to make sure that everybody can consume this the most effective way possible, right? And everybody can consume, again, just whether they're using Teams desktop or web or mobile. So very simple, very straightforward. This is the default way to do things. Um, Most of the time, unless, like I said, you're doing something that's very intricate, you don't need to mess with anything extra besides that. So when you're scheduling, like I said, you can limit who joins your live event. So those permissions are there. You can set it to people in groups, like we mentioned, organization wide or public, right? There's also ways to select whether you want to have a Q&A, right? If you want that available for the attendees so they can ask questions. Do you want to record it, right? So we talked about that. Do you want the producers and the presenters only to have access to the recording, or do you want the attendees to have access to the recording? So all that's managed here. And then I mentioned languages, right? The transcription, so the captions. Do you want captions available for the attendees? What languages do you want? You can choose up to 6 languages currently. So when they go and they click on the little more button at the top of their client with the 3 little dots, they'll be able to choose the transcription and then the language that you define within the settings here, right? And then the last thing is, do you want an engagement report after your live event, right? So that's just some reporting, again, that you can leverage to see who attended, how many people attended, whether they were live or consumed after the fact, and then that can help with some marketing as well, depending if this is a public event or not. So produce the events in Teams. Unfortunately, producing an event and sharing that is not super easy to demo. So we're gonna have to rely on the slides here. But as you can see here, you can monitor how many attendees are currently in the event. You have the 2 screens there, the one on the left and the right. So the left is the content that you have queued up essentially to be sent to be fed live to the feed. The right side is what's currently being fed to the feed. So you can queue up your content, make sure that what's coming next is exactly what you want. And typically you have, your producer doing that while your presenter's talking and actually handling the conversation and delivering the content. So that's nice that you can, like I said, you can have producers and presenters and organizers, and everybody has a role to play. You can share your screen, obviously, with the presenters and the moderators and the attendees, and you can see what's going to be presented ahead of time. And then you can make sure, so it's got controls obviously for your camera and your microphone and everything else, so that you can actually manage who's speaking and make sure that nobody's talking over each other, right? Just additional details that they put in here, right? So you can, like I said, enable private chat to talk with the presenters and the moderators. You can share your screen with the producer so they can see what's going on. The control for the microphones and the cameras, and then you can view the Q&A essentially there. So you can actually, for your Q&A moderators, they can see everything within that. I'm not going to go trying to do this as quick as possible. And then just a couple other things. This is the experience for the attendee, right? So this is what they're going to see. Essentially, what's on the right side of that previous slide is the live feed. That's what they're going to see. As I mentioned before, there's a 20-second delay, so it gives you a little bit of time to adjust if something's happening. But they can pause and consume the stream at their own time, right? So if they need to step away for a few minutes, they can actually pause and resume. They'll see the Q&A if it's enabled, so they can actually go in and type their questions and ask their questions. And then the closed captioning button's there in the bottom, like I said, so they can go in, click that on, and then select the language. By default, it's going to be the language of the speaker, but you can have those 6 additional languages if you want. And then this is what it looks like, right, when you have the actual invite in your calendar. So you can see there the recording, you can download it. You can have a Q&A report, so you can have a transcript essentially of the Q&A report. The engagement report, and then a transcript of the entire thing, the actual presentation itself, right? If you turned on transcriptions, you can actually have that available to download after the fact. But it's nice to have that all available. It's going to be there that you can then disperse as you see fit, right? So if you limited the recording to the producers and presenters only, then you can edit, do whatever you need to, and then send that out to the rest of the crowd if you wanted to do that after the fact, right? All right, so if you're going to be producing live events with an external app or device, right, it's going to basically utilize an encoder, which is going to accumulate all of the streams and all of the modalities and everything into one, right, and send that out to your users. Essentially, these are some of the compatible ones that I don't know if there's more. I think there might be more now, but these are some of the compatible encoders that are available for producing the live event. Make sure we know that this is for production purposes, okay? And this is what the flow would look like if you're not utilizing Teams to produce. So in a third-party situation, you can organize and schedule it not just in Teams. You can use Yammer or Stream. The real-time device is going to be where you're going to produce everything, right? So it's an external app and device that's then going to send the feedback to whatever application you choose, right? So Stream, Yammer, or Teams, and then send that out to delivery through Azure Media Services and the Content Delivery Network, or the third-party content delivery network providers as well, like I said. So there's production third-party solutions, and there's delivery third-party solutions, just so we're aware. And then the consumption can happen in either one of those three, right? So they can watch desktop, web, and mobile again, whether it's Stream, Yammer, or Teams. This is a little more involved. Obviously, some of these solution providers have their own teams that help you with the entire production, so you don't need to be an expert. But it is, again, something that you might want to think about if you're talking about something that's very, you want something super professional looking, or maybe something that's very intricate. So feature breakdowns. Not going to go through everything in here. Just I want to make people aware of one thing, right? When you're doing the Teams production, you can have attendees access from everywhere, right? You'll notice here that the public is not available when you're leveraging the third-party app device production, right? But everything else basically is almost a one-to-one. There's a couple of nuances here, like Yammer and Stream is only available if you're doing a third-party, not in Teams, since obviously you're using Teams. The embedded live player is not available in Teams. And then the recording location is going to be different, as you can see in the bottom there, depending on what you're using to produce that live event. So we just touched on some of these enterprise content delivery network solutions. They're configured in the live event settings, like I said, in the settings policy, or not the policy, in the live event settings. And these are great for minimizing the network load, right? So in the typical scenario, your users are all consuming one stream. If you have a situation where people are back to work in the office, right, they're no longer remote, and you have hundreds or even maybe thousands of people in one location, utilizing one of these solutions is going to be key, because instead of having one stream per, they're going to be utilizing a peer-to-peer distribution system, which is going to lower the bandwidth requirements and consumption for your live event, right? The other nice thing about this is that you get some insights and reporting that's goes a little bit above and beyond what's typically available in Teams. So depending on which solution you pick, they'll have a little bit different way of reporting that, but they all basically do essentially the same thing. So, and there's that link there for the Teams ECDN, where you can go and look to see what each one provides. So that's live events. We're going to touch on webinars real quick. So, we want people to deliver more engaging webinars. That's really the key, more participation, and just having better results overall. We have that registration and email structure like the live events do, like I said. There's a lot of customization that you can do when you're presenting to move the screen around, make sure that you're not blocking content, things of that nature. So you have the custom layouts that help with that, right? And then again, you have reporting for your webinars to see attendance, and use that, for internal purposes or even marketing purposes if you needed to. So this is just a quick little snippet on how you can go in and edit those invitations to the registration links, right? They'll have some additional information there. You can add questions. You can add custom banners to it. There, you can actually add a picture now to that registration link. I don't think it's shown in this particular slide, but if you go now and do this and you click on that link to edit the registration, you can see that you can add a picture. But so there's a little more customization that's available now for those invitations and the registration links that you're going to send out to your attendees. And again, these are for 1,000 persons or less for the interactive webinar. So if you want some sort of participation, if it goes above that, now you're talking broadcast only, right? So you're going to limit interaction at that point. Within the up to 1,000, you have the presentation options, you have all the reactions, right? Because they still have access to that. You have moderation controls to disable chat, audio, and video, like we do in this particular, session that we're conducting. But anytime you go above that, it's going to turn more into a live event type experience for them, right? Here's the note about increasing the broadcast to 20,000 people due to COVID. So. Again, the reporting and participation is available at the end. And if you're doing this for public purposes, right, you can use that to ingest into CRM so that you can then, leverage that data to do some marketing or to follow up, to get some information, to keep in touch with the attendees and the people that you were talking to, right? Which is great, especially for situations where it is a public webinar again. And like I said, you're going to get some reporting, so you can see the dashboard. It's going to show some information there, right? You can see this almost real time. I think it is pretty much real time while you're in there. But you can see some stats and some consumption and some limits and numbers there that can help you make sure that your webinar is actually good quality and you're not having issues of any kind with the network or participation or things like that. And then just lastly, we're going to touch on some best practices, right? So one of the things that people always ask me is like, oh, I've never done this. How do we do this? Well, the best thing to do is just to try it out. Like I said, we can show you, we can kind of give you videos, but until you're actually doing it, it's hard to really get a grasp of the flow and how you present and how you queue up things and monitor the Q&A and all those things. So my biggest piece of advice to test, set some test ones up, have a couple of people join as attendees, and then try out all the features that are available, right? And that's if we're talking about a Teams produced live event. If we're talking about a third party one, then there's a lot more planning that goes into that. And again, like I said, you'll probably have help from those solution providers. So it's going to be a little less of a crutch that you need with doing this on your own. But yeah, try out all the modalities. Yes, Scott.
I got two more best practices for you. That didn't make it. One best practice, one careful because it could get you. Once you stop a live event, it cannot be restarted.
Oh yes.
Okay, so it's critical that you make sure that you're all ready to go when you click start. To that end, if you have a live event that is very important, some are just informational and you could send out new invites because you might have the list of attendees handy. Some might be, where people are joining off of a link and you may not have the list of people, right? And may not have any way to contact them. So the other piece would be to create 2 live events and make sure Q&A is turned on for both of them. That way you can tell, because we have seen instances where the live event for some reason was broken. And there were certain things you couldn't do. With Q&A turned on, you can then provide the link to the second live event, okay? And then have the people, see that in the Q&A when you make a broadcast message. So you don't have to invite them to both. Invite them to the first one, but if it breaks, you have Q&A to broadcast a message to them saying, this one's not working, let's go join the other one. So just be real careful with that. It doesn't hurt to make 2. If you don't use the second one, you don't have to worry about it. And you don't have to send out invites for the second one. Just have the link and make sure Q&A is turned on for the first one so that you can reach out to everybody that's joined in the event that your live event doesn't work. Now, I don't know if it was a bug or something that was causing problems, but every once in a while it happens. So very, very important. If That's a very, very like it's an executive live event type thing. Definitely make 2, so you've got a failover.
It never hurts to be prepared, right?
And like Alex said, practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I appreciate that. So a couple other things, right? Just tips and tricks that we have, right? Make sure that you have more than one person doing the presentation, the production, right? It's hard to be talking, doing everything, queuing things up, handling Q&A. So make sure that you have enough people to handle all of it, especially if you're going to have a large event with thousands of people. You're going to have at least a couple of people doing Q&A, things of that nature, right? And then consider using a redirection URL service, right? That's going to shorten that URL. It's more readable, and then it allows you to change that without having to update all the invites. So similar to what Scott said, if maybe there's some issues, you can always change the URL if it's a separate issue that you're encountering. And then the meeting starts the teams like 30 minutes ahead of time to check your equipment, make sure everything's working. So again, with practicing, just test everything. Make sure that your microphone's working, your network's up to par, your video, your camera is working. And just most people have some sort of slide that says event will start soon, right? And you don't have to be, you can be just prepared ahead of time to make sure that everything goes smoothly and you're not surprised 2 minutes before the live event starts. Again, so test your devices, make sure that you have somebody on the attendee side testing that delay, make sure that it's not too much or that it's actually working, but make sure audio works, video works. A lot of people don't think about this, but proper lighting is key. Sometimes the video can be dark or too bright. Make sure that you have proper lighting. Test all that out, right? So, but test it in the place where you're going to actually be doing this. And then there's a live event assistance program. So I mentioned that some of the third-party providers have their own teams to do this, but we also have an assistant program that can help you guys practice, get some of these things down and learn some things, and then maybe after that you guys can be good to go on your own. But it's available. Just wanted to make sure you guys are aware of that. And that's essentially it. There's a live event playbook that's available as well. You guys can go to this link and take a look at it. It's going to help with a lot of the things that I've covered today. And maybe even answer some additional questions for you guys. And that is basically it. I think I made